Here's to whiskey kisses with peachy taste of sin.
It's whiskey time. Greetings, whiskey folk, and welcome back once again to Drinking Out Loud. I am your host, as ever, Adam Bradshaw, and today we are doing Outturn 108. Scotch Malt Whisky Society Outturn 108 here in Canada. Very cool, and it's a historic moment for us here at the Strath because we're actually having an Outturn event for the first time in 6 months. We're actually going to be having people come and join us for the release of these whiskies in a bit of a preview. So by the time this goes out, that actually happened yesterday. And for the first time in one of these Drinking Out Loud episodes for an Outturn, we're not doing our normal YouTube premiere. So this is not starting at 7 o'clock or 6:30 or whatever the deemed time was. There's no live chat, unfortunately. This is just a video for those of you who couldn't make it to the in-person tasting. So welcome to anyone who's at home watching this. The major differences this time is that the whiskies are actually already all up for sale. So if you go to strathliquor.com/SMWS, you will see all of these whiskies that I'm about to present ready for purchase. So you don't have to wait until the end of the video. They're already there. So feel free, if you would like to skip forward and find out what I'm about to taste by going to that website and seeing if there's anything that you want to pick up without even hearing my own thoughts on it. But for those of you who want a little bit of a helping hand figuring out which bottles you want to have delivered to your house, or what bottles you would like to pick up from the store this month, this video is for you. So a huge welcome to anyone watching this from anywhere in BC who's thinking of picking up a bottle from strathliquor.com and having it delivered, but also a huge welcome to anyone throughout the world who happens to have randomly found this video on YouTube, especially if you're an SMWS member. If you are an SMWS member and you're not from BC, even better, if you're an SMWS member and you're not even from Canada and you found this video, please let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And for anyone who normally joins in the live chat who is watching this right now, please do comment on the video. I will make sure I go through and answer any questions that are left in the comments personally. As well as I'll be checking throughout the day. So if you have an immediate question and you would like an immediate answer, you can try the comments, but For a faster response, you can get me on social media. You can find us at Drama Association, so that would be on both Twitter and Instagram at /Drama Association, or you can find me personally at Whiskey on My Mind as well. So feel free to go to Whiskey on My Mind at Drama Association, and if you have some really in-depth SMWS specific questions, you can even reach SMWS Canada at SMWS Canada. So all those links will be at the bottom of the screen here, hopefully, if I've done my job properly. And without further ado, let's get on with the Outturn, because it's a stunning lineup. So the first one we have today is called Sunshine After the Rain. So let me read you the official tasting notes, shall I? An intriguing start brought us green bell peppers, nettle tea, and gorse bushes in bloom, alongside applesauce, ginger and rhubarb with a squeeze of lime. Flavors danced on the tongue with chilies, cloves, and the fizziness of fermenting apples before sweeter characters of Madeira cake and honey emerged. After a dash of water, however, we found ourselves in a shower of sherbet, fruit jelly sweets, and cherry cola. Caramel and honey rained down in a precipitous display of sweet delights and splashed onto blueberries, blackcurrants, and juniper beside cranberry jam and coriander before the finish arrived, donned in strong green tea, dark chocolate, and tree bark. That's a little bit all over the place, isn't it? That sounds very exciting. So, Sunshine After the Rain. Let's find the bottle. And here it is. So Sunshine After the Rain right here. Make sure it's vaguely in shot. There we are. So this is a very exciting bottle. It is code 82.22. It's from the Highlands. It is from a second fill barrel. It's 8 years old. It's from the 16th of March, 2011. Yeah, that was my granddad's birthday. Not 2011. He's, a lot older than that. And it is one of 235 bottles in this Outturn. We have less than that available, and it's an ABV of 62.6. And actually, on that note, I should mention how this is going to work in terms of bottle availability. So we're going to have the in-person Outturn releases before the first Friday of the month. We're going to stick with the standard, the international standard of the first Friday of the month for our SMWS general releases. For those of you who actually go to the in-person tastings, you will be able to pick up some bottles at the tastings, but we're not making them all available at the tastings anymore. What we're going to do is we're going to split. In this case, we've got two sessions that people can come to physically, and then we have this video that's you're watching right now. And what we're going to do is going to split the inventory roughly into thirds. So a third of what we have available will be available at each tasting, and then the final third will be available for you to purchase online if you're watching this video. Theoretically, those folk who were at the tasting, if they missed out on a particularly special bottle at the tasting, they can also, just stalk the website and buy it online on Friday morning. But hopefully this at least gives you guys at home a decent chance of being able to pick up a special bottle. So hopefully this works out well for you. We've been doing our best to try and accommodate everyone in these strange times. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to trying this one. The interesting note as well from Rob and Kelly. So Distillery 82 is one that we haven't seen in SMWS Canada since February 2012. So it's been over 8 years since we last saw a whiskey from this distillery in the Scotch Malt Whisky Society here. And the last one was called Stunning. Interestingly, it was actually only, if I can read my notes here, I think 82.19 if I can read my notes correctly, which means that in those 8 years, the SMWS has actually only released another 3 editions from this distillery. So it's a particularly rare release from a quite interesting distillery. But before I reveal where it's from, let's crack her open and see what I think of it, shall we? Put the lids over here, and here we go. Oh, that was a satisfying pop. My. Okay. Here we go. Sunshine After Rain. Well, I'm a fan of the experience. Let's see if I'm a fan of the whiskey. Nice soft start. Very delicate for something of this age. Normally for an 8-year-old whiskey, you expect it to be on, somewhat of an attack mode, especially at 62.6. That's a relatively high ABV as well. But no, it's very, very welcoming on the nose, at least. And there is an interesting peppery vegetableness. I see where they're coming from with bell peppers. Yeah, bell peppers, ginger, cloves. Definitely. It's not overly sweet, at least on the nose yet. But let's see. All right. Initial reaction on the palate. Yep, that is that is that young feisty flavor that I was more expecting from the age and the ABV. Definitely something that I would personally put a little bit of water into to see if it helps. Helps calm it down a little bit. It's not an unpleasant feistiness at all. It's I don't know. It's my first whiskey of the day, so I wasn't quite. I don't think I was quite prepared for it. But yeah, I'm getting like a sharp, it's like sour apple candies, like like apple Jolly Ranchers, but on the sour side. It's nice. But it's not a straight candy kind of sweetness. It's almost like a good quality caramel, actually. It's like good quality caramel with sharp bits of apple in there. I don't think I've ever actually had a cask strength whiskey from this distillery. I have a bottle. I have a very special bottle from this distillery that I've been saving for a special occasion later in this year. But I don't think I've actually tasted something cask strength from this distillery, which is very interesting. Let's see if I get some of these different notes after a little bit of water. Just a couple of drops in there. Wake her up. So they tell me I'm expecting sherbet, jelly sweets, and cherry cola, so much more candy sweetness, seemingly. Let's see what I get. All right. Quite different. I personally much prefer it after water on that first sip. It's a little bit Vimto-esque now. It's got, that blackcurrant and herbal cordial kind of thing going on. Certainly not lacking in character and flavour. I think we're off to a great start. I'm going to, as always, keep some in the glass here so I can compare and contrast a little later on if necessary. Always a good thing to do at these kind of events and tastings. But let's reveal what it is. So, 82.22. It's a Glencadam. Founded in 1825, this distillery is almost 200 years old, but despite that long life, they're actually still quite small, with only one pair of stills, and they're relatively unknown to those who aren't die-hard whiskey enthusiasts like us. They've been through a dozen different owners in their 195 years, the current owners being Angus Dundee, who are also the owners of Tomintoul, or Tomintoul, depending where you're from and how you pronounce that word. They bought it out of retirement in 2003 after it was mothballed by their previous owners in the year 2000. So it spent 3 years closed, or around 3 years closed, before Angus Dundee came in and brought them back. And I'm glad they did. I've had some really interesting Glencadam releases. It's the 15 is a very strong whiskey. We had it in the Dram Association last year. It's very, very pleasant. But yeah, no, I'm very grateful to have the chance to try a single cask strength release like this from the SMWS. And I don't have to wait till the end. I can tell you the price right now. It is available, so long as it's not already sold out. It is available at strathliquor.com right now for $156.43, which is a pretty damn good price. If you like the sound of some sunshine after the rain, then why not pick yourself up a bottle? All right. Let's move swiftly on to the second whiskey of this Outturn release. Thank you, Sunshine After the Rain. Not sure where to put you. I'll put you over here. Okay, so I instantly know at least one person who's going to buy this bottle on name alone, because they're huge Star Trek fans. But this is Spock's Earwax. Spock's Earwax. Fantastic. There's sweet pastries and runny honey at first, then molten toffee, salted caramel, coconut wafers, gorse, heather flowers, talcum powder, and shilling ales. Which is interesting because, to my recollection, there's 4 different types of shilling ales, and they're all quite different. So I wonder if there's something that ties them all together that I can find in this whiskey. That gives me a good challenge. A hearty dollop of fruity muesli too. A little water brings turmeric and dried thyme. A bouquet of garni of herbs, shoe polish, new leather, pine cones, and Earl Grey tea. Some bandages wrapped around a light sootiness, and some slabs of wet concrete. The palate fizzes like lemon vitamin tablets in soda water. Since when have I said vitamin tablets, Adam? Jeebus. There's sheep wool, soft medical waxes, butter biscuits, aged calvados, green banana, heather honey, and lemon balm. After reduction, there's more warm spices, lime pith, pink grapefruit, tarragon, wax, tobacco leaf, green pepper, and potpourri. Matured for 9 years in a bourbon hogshead before being transferred. I need to put my false teeth back in. Before being transferred to a number 4 heavily charred new oak hogshead. There we go. I got there. I got to the end. All right. I'm particularly excited by this one because I was blown away by the last edition that we had from these guys. So we had 59.58 a few months ago. This Ain't No Pussycat. I think July, maybe. Don't quote me on that, but it's somewhere in the summer. We had This Ain't No Pussycat, and I absolutely adored it. And I mostly adored it because it did something that one of my favorite distilleries does. That distillery being Kleinleash. It had that beautiful waxiness, and I think that's where the name came from. This Ain't No Pussycat. Kleinleash has a big cat on it, so I think it was, playing off of that. It was very Kleinleash-esque, and from the description and from the name of this one, it sounds Kleinleashy, which is very exciting. So I'm gonna go right into this guy. I'm gonna crack it open and taste it before I tell you the rest of the details this time, because I can't wait, to be honest. Alrighty. Ooh, we're getting some good pops today. All right. Just a splash. Yeah, that smells delightful. Oh, that smells very delightful. Okay. So, this is again from the Highlands. So it's 2 Highlands in a row now, for those keeping count. This is a new oak hogshead finish after a bourbon hogshead before. As I mentioned in the tasting notes, it's a number 4 heavily charred new oak hogshead finish, which is kind of cool. It is 10 years old, distilled on the 29th of September 2008, an outturn of 297 bottles at an ABV of 55.2, so substantially lower ABV than the last malts. I'm expecting this to be much more tame in terms of any kind of burn going on, but full-on flavour from that secondary cask finish there. Oh, that does smell deep and beautiful. Straight off the bat, I'm getting the muesli. It smells like Alpen, for those of you who are familiar with the Swiss muesli brand Alpen. But the sweetened Alpen, not the disgusting cardboard unsweetened Alpen. I think you have to be some kind of masochist to get unsweetened Alpen. Yeah, that's very nice. Strong on the vanilla, a little bit of a dried apricot thing going on the nose for me. Touch, just a little tiny touch of like a balsamic reduction. but there's also a meatiness to it. It's not. Often when you say there's a savoury note to a whiskey, it often means, you know, a salty, sometimes, you know, bacony, seafoody, briny kind of a thing. Now this meatiness to me is coming across much more as a mushroom, almost truffle-esque, actually. Ooh, that's delightful. If Spock's earwax actually tasted like this, well, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to say, because I don't really understand who or what Spock is. I'm not a Trekkie, I'm afraid. But for those of you who are Star Trek fans, let us know in the comments what you think Spock's earwax would actually taste like. Maybe that's a thing. Maybe there's some kind of lore in there. Do people eat Spock's earwax in Star Trek? I don't know. Probably not. It sounds like a very weird plot. We're lost on this inhabitable planet and there's no food. Quick, grab Spock. And a spoon. Now this is one that, if I was having a dram of this in a bar, I would absolutely not add water, because I like it so much the way it is. I wouldn't want to run the risk of it getting worse if I know that there's no more to come. However, that's not the situation. I'm in a tasting. I have a duty to let you guys know what I think it's like with water, so I'm willing to run that risk today, especially as I know that I'm going to be drinking it again tomorrow. So I will happily do this. Plus, I know if I really like it, I can buy a bottle, because I may as well tell you right now, this is only $156.43 as well, exactly the same price as Sunshine After the Rain. So, yeah, stunning. It's yeah, it's a little maltier on the nose after adding the drops of water. Little sweeter. Yeah, it sounds disgusting, but imagine making Horlicks with water instead of milk. I'm sure some people do that if they're like lactose intolerant or something. But yeah, it's got that sweet malty flavour, but without the creaminess that you get in Horlicks. Maybe it's like the middle of a Malteser. There we go. Ooh. Oh, there's this beautiful, rich cacophony of herbs and spices on the back palate, which I'm assuming comes from that virgin oak finish. Yeah, it's but it does still remain sort of savoury-esque. I just glanced at the notes and saw the words green banana, which made me think, well, I don't really see green banana, but plantain? I could definitely see roasted plantain in this. Yeah, that is tobacco leaf. Yeah, absolutely. Green pepper, grapefruit. That is astoundingly good, and might be coming home with me. So, yeah. I should tell you who it is, for those of you who didn't watch the video where we revealed it in This Ain't No Pussycat. Spock's earwax is 59.59, which is a Tianinic. Tianinic, the history of this distillery is eerily similar to Kleinlich, so it's not just that it tastes kind of similar in these last two expressions, but it's actually historically weirdly similar as well. But they do have some key differences. Both were built by Highland clearance landlords and were manned by their tenants. But unlike Kleinlich's brutal and tyrannical origins, this distillery was founded by a much beloved and apparently very kind Napoleonic war hero who was blinded by musket shot. He was known as the Blind Captain Hugh Munro and was loved by apparently pretty much everyone. Interestingly enough, they were also both bought out by DCL, now known as Diageo, in the earlier 20th century, and within just 3 years of each other, they both built a new distillery next door to themselves, and then went on to close the original distillery down, which is also weirdly, eerily similar. Famously, however, Kleinlich They reopened their original distillery as Brora. No such luck, unfortunately, with Tia Ninich. They didn't reopen their second distillery. So when they built the new Tia Ninich, they actually called the new one Side A and the old one Side B. And Side B was in production still for a few years before it was closed down. Diageo have actually announced, however, that they are building, or planning to build at least, a new Tia Ninich distillery house as well. So whether that's going to be Tia Ninich Side C, I have no idea. They're planning a box set release in a few hundred years, I guess. But yeah, I am fast becoming a big fan of this distillery. A distillery which, honestly, until relatively recently, I didn't really think about much. You know, it's not that I had a bad opinion. I certainly didn't. I just didn't really have an opinion. So it's really nice to add another distillery to my list of ones to look out for. Tia Ninich, big fan. Keep doing what you're doing. Yeah, that's very good. Okay, on to the third whiskey. And I feel bad for saying that, because the third whiskey is not a whiskey. The third whiskey is an Armagnac, if that makes any sense whatsoever. And this is a interesting Armagnac for me personally, because for the first time in the SMWS Armagnac releases here, we've got an Armagnac that I've actually had something from this distillery before, or this chateau before. So this is musk-coated candy floss. It is A5.2, the first time we've ever had an A5 here in SMWS Canada. It is French, of course, as all Armagnac has to be. This is from the Basse Armagnac region, I believe. Basse Armagnac. It's made with Uni Blanc grapes and matured in Gascon black oak. It is from a 2005 vintage, so that's something we don't get with Armagnacs because of the way they're made, and there's some Solera vatting involved, I believe. I'm not an expert in Armagnac by any stretch of the imagination, but for whatever reason, they don't give us an exact distillation date, but they do give us a vintage. So this is a 2005, so you'd think it's approximately around 14, 15 years old, depending when it was bottled, this year or last. You get 606 bottles out of the apparently quite large Gascon Black Oak cask. And this one came out at 59.4, which from recollection is quite high for an Armagnac. I feel like the other Armagnacs we've had recently have been, I'm all the way over there, have been somewhat less ABV than that. So let's see what the official tasting notes are before I crack into it. A pool of burnished teak and maple syrup. The nose starts with a savoury creme brulee crust served on a pecan tart and grated grapefruit zest. In the background is a wrapping of musk and dark bottled aftershave. A journey of night into day. In the distance, a wisp of smoke lingers and introduces a syrupy coated lift. The palate starts with candy floss dissolving in the mouth, closely followed by a slap of citrus fruit zest dusted with soft effervescence. It finishes on a burning sweet note with the zest faded away, bringing back the caramel from the beginning. Exciting times. Alrighty, put the book over there. Let's grab myself a glass and try an Armagnac. Yeah, very cool. So I'm just going to reveal what the Armagnac is so I can talk about the fact that I've had it before. This is a Chateau de la Barde, and you can watch my reactions of having it before. In one of the videos, we did a video earlier this year of malternatives here on Drinking Out Loud, and Chateau de la Barde, I think it was the VSOP or maybe just the VS, was one of the alternatives that I had, and I thought it was a little lackluster, to be honest. But the biggest reason I thought it was a little lackluster is because it didn't have much depth and volume to it, which in a single cask expression is probably not going to be the case. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how stark the difference is between the traditional, 40% off-the-shelf Armagnac is to what the SMWS's interpretation of what Armagnac should be is. Oh, we're on a winner with the pops here today. This is a 3 for 3 on good pops. Ooh, bloody hell. That is the colour of Coca-Cola after it's been sat in the sun for a while and the ice has melted into it. It's like a slightly watered down Coca-Cola colour. It's got that weird red hue to it. That is cool. Oh, and it smells lovely. Ah, it's very nice. So, Chateau de la Bargue. They're situated on a 260-acre vineyard. Their estate was built in 1870 in the heart of Basse-Armagnac, but it was reconstructed in 1902 by Joseph Newlands, who would go on to become the French ambassador to St. Petersburg during the Russian Revolution. So quite some interesting history to this distillery slash chateau, I guess. I never know what to call them. They're these French ones. I think they just go by chateau. But yeah, this is very, very cool. Much more full flavored on the nose than I remember the off the rack to be. This is gorgeously boutique Armagnac. One of the things that's really exciting about this one though as well is because Chateau de la Bargue are quite a major producer. You can find them in BC. They're not some of the more craft producers that we've seen Armagnacs come from in the past in the SMWS. The price on this is stunning as well. It's $166 for a at least 15-year-old, at least 14-year-old, I guess, Armagnac, which is very good. It's very, very good. Oh, man. That is... It's quite tannic. The first thing that hit me was it reminded me an awful lot of a heel I just killed last night, actually, at home. For anyone who remembers, we had an SMWS Bowmore that was an exclusive to the pop-up store at the Whiskey Festival a few years ago. A 26-year-old Bowmore that had just a stunning amount of that perfumey, violety thing that some Bowmores have. And I got that right off the bat. But yeah, it's very tannic on the back end. It just like it disappears off your tongue in a physical sense, but leaves all of the flavor behind in this sort of weird, drying way. I really enjoy it. It's like an ascension almost. It's like its spirits being lifted up to the heavens, and it's leaving its corporeal self behind. And I guess the corporeal self is where all the flavor is. Let's see what water does. I don't know if traditionally water is added to Armagnacs, but yeah. Oh, we'll see what happens. Smells a little bit more black tea leaf now. Let's go back to the official notes, see if I can... There is a touch of smoke. I think that's why it was reminding me of that old Bowmore as well. There is a little smokiness to this one, which is... I knew there was going to be a lot of smoke in this release. I didn't realize it was going to start so early. I have to be honest. Yeah. There's a smoke and kind of like a burnt cinder toffee. Like if you could set cinder toffee on fire, I know that has different names in places. What is cinder toffee called when it's not called cinder toffee? Sponge toffee. You know, like the middle of a crunchy bar. If you could set that on fire, it would be a little like this. That's a very nice Armagnac. Yeah. Very good indeed. It's a fantastic addition to the collection of single cask spirits that we now have available from the SMWS here. So for those of you who maybe haven't been paying attention over the summer and are just tuning back in, we do have some fantastic spirits available that were released over the summer. We have some great gins. If you're thinking of enjoying a few more gin and tonics whilst the vaguely summerish weather is still around us, then we'd have some SMWS gin. We've got some rum available right now and a cognac as well, and now this Armagnac. So you could stock up your entire back bar with SMWS right now, which is very cool. Still waiting on that SMWS tequila though, one day maybe. All right, thank you very much, Musk Coated Candy Floss. Available right now at strathaliquor.com/SMWS. All right. Next up, we have a distillery I'm a big fan of. One that the last time we had from something from this distillery, I bought myself a bottle, and I have to be honest, I liked it so much, I got myself a second after it had been on the shelf for a little while. You know, I gave everyone else a fair opportunity first, but I have 1.5 bottles of the last release from this distillery at home. That was called the Royal Fruitcake, released in September of 2019. That was 37.117. This is 37.131. Tarantula Tongue Dancing. Just in time for Halloween. The nose is a cracker. Treacle tart, syrup sponge, and toffifees. I've had a toffifee for a long time. Cool. Caramel latte, sherry trifle with orange jelly specifically, coffee kisses, flowers, and wine-soaked oak. The palate is deep as as deep as Mariana. I don't know who or what Mariana is, and weighty as Nigerian Guinness in a clay pot. I do know what Nigerian Guinness is, though. For those of you who are unaware, I think this is real and not just an urban legend, but Guinness, when exported to certain parts of Africa, is exported as a syrup, and you just add water to it, which is very odd. Burnt fruitcake, raisins flamed in spiced rum, clove-flavoured gingerbread, and leather. With water, the nose gets spice-laden incense, licorice bullets, brandy snaps, espresso, and Battenberg cake. The palate is easier but still tannic, caramelized sugar, barbecued pineapple, butterkiss popcorn, and tar, dancing the tarantula on the tongue. After 15 years in an ex-bourbon wood... Interesting, I was expecting it to say hogshead there, or barrel, ex-bourbon wood of some description. It was transferred into a first fill, shaved, toasted, and recharred barrique, an STR cask, you know, Jim Swan's famous STR, something that we're quite familiar with here in Victoria, because the Victoria Caledonia distillery uses STR casks an awful lot, and it can be very effective. All right, let's try this tarantula tongue dancing. So this is a Speyside whiskey. I believe the only Speyside of the day, yeah, I'm pretty sure. This is a Speyside whiskey, again, first fill barrique finish, from an STR cask. It is 15 years old, which means that actually the finish is less than a year, interestingly. It was distilled on the 5th of November 2003 with an outturn of 251 bottles with an ABV of 58.3. And once again, I didn't even notice, apparently, with bottle number 1 was part of the new livery. This is also part of the newly designed labels, which again, big fan of. I think they're a huge improvement over the last ones. Very nice orangey golden hue there. Butterkiss popcorn. Was that a note in here? It's certainly something I can smell. Butterkiss popcorn. See? Yeah, it's like a night at the movies watching a scary film. I don't know why scary film, probably just the name. A little cakey, yeah. A little coffee. Not getting the Nigerian Guinness as much as I wish I had, because that sounds like a great note. But yeah, this is a... Oh, Nigerian Guinness is on the palate, not on the nose. All right, let's see. Ooh. That's really interesting. In certain ways, it has a lot in common with the Armagnac we just had. I feel like they're, you know how some cities have like twinned cities. I think Victoria's twinned with somewhere in China. This feels like a twinned whiskey. You know, Speyside and France are quite far apart, and they're made in very, very different ways, but they have something in common that ties them together. One of the things in common that ties them together is a little wisp of smoke, but also that floral note. That's really cool. Although the floral note in this one is a little bit more nasturtium and less lavender. It's a little bit more lively, bitter floral than soft lavender floral. I need to eat more flowers so I've got a better frame of reference for floral notes. What is that? What is that? That is a very distinct note. Coffee cake. That is coffee cake with that thin layer of weird icing that coffee cake sometimes has. You know, the really thin, not fully set icing. That's really, really good. Gingerbread, I can see the gingerbread coming in as well. Let's try it with a bit of water. Have to be brutally honest, I don't like it quite as much as I liked the royal fruitcake, but that being said, I liked the royal fruitcake enough that I bought 2 bottles, so do I like this enough that I'll buy 1 bottle? Potentially. Will you like it as enough to be able to, to make it worthwhile buying a bottle? Quite possibly. If you're a fan of this distillery and you're a fan of these kind of flavors, then you probably should. If you're a fan of other distilleries that use STR casks, you want to see what happens if you use an STR cask on a much older, much more well-known, highly regarded distillery, then this is an interesting one to do a comparison to as well. And I will definitely be going home and having this side by side with some Mac Nebraska to see what happens there. So, I mentioned if you're a fan of this distillery, it's worth picking up, but I haven't even mentioned this distillery, so I should probably tell you. Distillery 37 in the SMWS is Cragganmore, one of the most flavorful malts in its region, Speyside. This distillery creates a rich, complex flavor through long fermentation, distillation in small, flat-top stills, and cooling in worm-tub condensers. Possibly most interestingly of all for a Speyside malt, lightly peated malted barley. It's in the A1 category of malt for blending houses, and as such is highly sought after by many companies. So not often you see an independently bottled Cragganmore. Almost all of it goes towards the Diageo blends or the standard Cragganmore releases that you see on the shelf. So yeah, a special treat to be able to try a Cragganmore at full cask strength with a very interesting twist on the regular Cragganmore with the STR cask there. Very nice indeed. Okay, so this one can be yours as long as it's still available at strathliquor.com/SMWS for $206.87. $206.87. Very, very pleasant indeed. Should put the lid back on before I put the bottle back. Okay, moving swiftly onwards, we have... we've got a black label next. And I'm going to do something special for the black label. I'm going to have it in my Victoria Whisky Festival 2020 limited edition 15th anniversary crystal cut Glencairn glass. How beautiful is that? All right, so I'm not going to reveal straight away what it is. I'm going to give you the tasting notes first to get you salivating a little. This one is really out of left field, unexpected and unusual, but we all gave it thumbs up. The nose has fruity perfumes riding a tame wave of clean smoke, tar on a raspberry bush, fruity hookahs, salted black currant, crab claws with grapefruit, waxed lemons, and melissa. Oh, and hospital corridors. The palate is sharp, citric smoke bomb, the usual soot, tar, ash, and licorice coexisting with astringent fruits, salty lemon, passion fruit, crab apples and blackcurrant, something slightly mentholic and medicinal, and then a seriously dry finish of ginger, wasabi, leather, humbugs, and coltsfoot rock. I don't know what that is. Single cask samples do not always conform to the template. After 19 years in an ex-bourbon hogshead, we transferred this whiskey to a first fill Oloroso hogshead for the remainder of its maturation. Oh, so exciting. And I really, really, really like this whiskey. And for those of you who are wondering how I know I really, really like this whiskey before even opening the bottle, I know I like it because I presented this at the Courtney Comox Whiskey Festival earlier this year, back in February. February. I also know I like it because it was around during the festival here as well, in Victoria. So some of you have already tasted this little sample of paradise and know what's coming. And for those of you who didn't make it to either of those festivals, this is something delightful. It's something delightful that also won Best in Class at the Alberta Beverage Awards, which is something not to be taken lightly as well. It's a fantastic recognition of the quality of this whiskey. Out of left field, ladies and gentlemen, is 29.257. That's right, it's a Laphroaig. And it's 21 years old with a 2-year first fill Oloroso finish. Yes, it is. All right, let's see if it's as good as I remember it. It almost definitely will be. I remember it being very good. Bask in the glory for a second. There's something about older Laphroaig that it just makes me just wonderfully nostalgic, because Laphroaig is one of the whiskies that really got me going early in my sort of whiskey journey. It's one of those whiskies that it's so uniquely flavored. It's so easy to spot a Laphroaig. And the ones that, I started off with are standards, the 10-year-old and the quarter cask, and they are powerful, powerful whiskies, and that's what got me into powerful flavors. But as with many whiskey journeys, as I keep going, I look for lighter influences of peat these days. I enjoy strong peat flavors, and if I'm in the mood, I'll go for an absolute peat bomb. But I like peat when it's integrated now. I like peat when it's part of a bigger picture, and that is what happens when peat ages, and when Laphroaig ages. It retains its beautiful self, but it gains oh so many friends, and just beautiful. This is one of 175 bottles. It was distilled on the 26th of November in 1996. It is, of course, from Islay. And one of the things that makes this whiskey so beautiful and unique is its natural cask strength of 45.8 ABV. 45.8 natural cask strength. Making this not only a beautiful evolution of that Laphroaig flavor with an extra insertion of flavor from the cask finish, as well as the aging in the previous aging in its original cask. It gives it this beautiful, soft serenity. There's so little alcohol burn on this whiskey that means you can feel and taste every part of it, and that is what I'm most looking forward to going back into this. Sláinte. Cherry pipe tobacco on the finish there. It's like being in Belgium again. I feel like I bring Belgium up a lot in these tasting notes. Apparently some of my happiest memories were in Belgium. Stands to reason, Belgium's fantastic. Yeah, this is just a stunning example of how to take a really characterful malt and make it even more colourful in flavour. It's very, very good. Yeah. Raspberries, yeah, absolutely. Salted blackcurrant. I've never salted a blackcurrant, although I have had salted blackcurrant licorice. I can see where it's coming from. It's got that sharp medicinal Lafroig flavour that you always know and love from Lafroig, but it's fleeting. You see it, you get it, you understand it, you appreciate it, and then it disappears into a crowd of beautiful, beautiful sherry notes. Yeah, this is very good. So a few years ago, we did an SMWS versus official bottling tasting, and it was a great tasting. We did it up in the Maple Room, and we did 4 SMWS bottles versus 4 official bottlings from the same distillery. And the only official bottling that beat an SMWS bottling at the time, and it was by like 0.2 points or something ridiculously close, was Lafroig Law, which I still think is the best official bottling from Lafroig. I will happily take a Lafroig Law over a Lafroig, 21 or 25 or anything, and I think value for money, Lafroig Law is absolutely incredible. This is the same flavor profile that I get from Lafroig Law, just fine-tuned just a little bit more. It's more focused. It's a little less blurry, and if we went back in time and did the official bottling versus SMWS tasting again, this would absolutely win. No question of a doubt in my mind. Yeah, this is a very special whiskey. And we're actually very lucky, because normally when these black labels come out, especially one as sought after and like as this, we only usually get 1 case, and we actually managed to get 2 cases of this one, so there's more to go around. I haven't decided yet whether it's going to go to a lottery or whether I'm just going to put them up for sale. I guess the reaction from the preview on Thursday night will let me know my final decision on that. But it's either for sale right now, or you can enter a draw to be able to buy it right now at SMWS, at strathliquor.com/SMWS. And yeah, it's really good. The last time we had a Lafroig, by the way, was in August. We had the Nostalgile, or Nostalgile. I still don't know how to pronounce that. I guess Nostalgile, because Isla is pronounced Isla. Anyway, that was 29252. This is a few years older, and we actually have 2 cases, like I said. So this is available potentially right now, potentially a draw. The price is $535.57. So yeah, get it while you can. I really don't think it's going to be around for too long, because these go in an instant. Like the Nostalgile, we had a draw, and I think we had like 4 times the amount of people enter the draw than we had bottles for. So on that metric alone, this probably won't last long either. But let me tell you a little bit about Lafroig as well. So Lafroig, for those of you who aren't aware of what it is, which would be surprising, is actually the best-selling peated single malt in the world, and it's one that really put peated single malts on the map. Though it's always been loved by locals and was first released as a peated single malt in its domestic market in the 1920s, this highly prized malt was once actually thought to be too strongly flavoured to be consumed unblended by the export market, especially the English, who at the time had a reputation of being, faint of heart, I guess. However, the pioneering Bessie Williamson, who was the first ever female distillery manager in Scotland's history, believed that the spirit's potential to be a single malt was huge. And through her dedication, they created peat lovers around the world with their classic Laphroaig releases, even in England. Even this English palate has learnt to love the majestic, crazy medicinal beauty that is Laphroaig. Yeah. 2 thumbs up. And I'm very excited to say that we still have 2 whiskies left, and the next 2 whiskies are also peated. It's a smoky kind of month. Yeah, maybe they were inspired by the terrible forest fires that made everything in Victoria smoky for a while, and SMWS decided, yeah, you know what Victoria needs? More smoke. Well, it's the same across the country, so that doesn't make any sense. I assume the forest fire smoke didn't make it to Alberta. If you are from Alberta and you can confirm or deny, let us know in the comments section. I'd love to know if you guys also got covered in smoke a couple of weeks ago. All right, the next whiskey today is a really interesting one. It's one that I'm really looking forward to trying because I've heard it. I've seen a couple of reviews online from people in the UK who have already had this whiskey released there, and it was compared very favourably to one of my favourite blended malts from a couple of years ago, the Compass Box No Name. And this, in a sense, is, I guess, SMWS's attempt at the same style as No Name. This is the SMWS Battle Axe, which is pretty cool. It looks like, to me, it looks like the best Super Nintendo video game that you could possibly get for Christmas. It feels like there's going to be Vikings screaming at me when I open the lid of this one. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about this whiskey. It was made in celebration for the SMWS's love of heavily peated whiskies produced on Islay. It is unapologetic in its intensity, and it spans across earthy, floral, coastal, and medicinal elements that can be found in this style. We hope you enjoy it as much as we do. So here's the official tasting notes. The blacksmith clinked and clanked industriously at the anvil, bending black metal to his will. Axes, spears, and lucky horseshoes were forged in stifling temperatures in preparation for battle. We travelled from our settlement at the bay, beyond the tar pit to the battleground, where the peat bog goblins pelted us mercilessly with pears poached in petrol, and flaming lemons studded with licorice root. By the time the battle was won, the sky was filled with purple plumes of heather-fueled smoke. The earth scorched and the surrounding flora ablaze. Back home, we found comfort around campfires and celebrated with oysters and mead. Retiring to bed, our stone huts exuded heavy aromas of damp earth, and our peat fires were at their smouldering end as we drifted off into slumber. Someone stoked the flames with camphor, eucalyptus, and dried heather. By morning, our ppm levels were significant. I know that this whiskey is made to please a very specific subsection of SMWS members, but I feel that here in Victoria we have a very large percentage of SMWS members who are that exact target audience. We have a lot of peat heads in the area here, and I think that this one is going to go down really, really well here. Well, at least I hope it does, because we actually managed to get 3 cases of this one. So we actually have, at the very least, 5 bottles available online that weren't sold at the preview tastings. Yeah, this is going to be a cool one. Let's see what it's all about. Remember I was just saying how when I first got into whiskey, the Laphroaig 10 and the Laphroaig Quarter Cask were the things that really got me hooked on peat, and that's why I really like the older versions of Laphroaig now. This reminds me so much of why I got hooked on peat by those kind of expressions. This is beautiful, unadulterated Islay in a glass. This is... This is big peat. I don't mean big peat the blend, but this is big on peat. This obviously isn't big peat. You don't have a big smiling bearded fellow on the front. Similar idea though. I would say, on the nose at least, peatier than big peat. I would say potentially peatier than No Name. This is... significantly ppm'd. Let's see what other information we've got on here. It's exactly 50% ABV, as I believe all of the SMWS blended malts have been so far. This one has an age statement, though. This is 8 years old, which is excellent. It's always nice to get an idea of the age of these kind of whiskies. I can also tell you that it is from refill hogsheads, and I can also tell you it was distilled, I guess, on the 27th of April 2011. So I guess that is the age of the youngest component. That would be how that works. So the youngest part of this whiskey was distilled on the 27th of April 2011. Because this is a blended malt, it's a much larger outturn than we're used to seeing in the SMWS, which is why we have 3 cases of it, even though it was also available in the UK market and most markets around the world for the SMWS. This is 1,957 bottles, which, whilst very large for an SMWS release, is still incredibly small compared to most other blended malt releases. This is still a small batch boutique blended malt by global standards. Actually, a little less peaty on the palate than it is on the nose. But I get those, I want to say pears poached in petrol. I get the pear, and I also get the petrol. Whether I get the poached bit, I'm unsure. But yeah, there is a sweet orchard fruity thing going on, as well as all of those traditional, big oily peaty notes. This is very much a battle. It's very clashing of swords, but I think that battle might be happening in an orchard. The Great Battle of Annapolis, which is a apple growing region in Nova Scotia, for those of you who are unaware of Annapolis apples. I do love the idea of peat bog goblins. I'm going to out myself as a bit of a nerd right now, but I have recently started playing Dungeons & Dragons, and I'm going to challenge my dungeon master to create some peat bog goblins, because that sounds delightful. I'd love to attack one with a giant axe. Although my character has a big hammer, not an axe. Also, because I'm very bad at remembering made-up names, everything to do with my character's backstory is named after whiskey. My character's name actually is Tamdu Wolfburn. Yeah, that is exactly what I wanted out of an SMWS blended malt called Battle Axe. That is very, very alluring. And for anyone who is a fan of big peaty whiskies, big peaty single malts, this is essentially the same as... It's hilarious. This is less blended than most single malts, if that makes any sense. Although this is a blended malt. Every single malt that you see on the shelf that is an official bottling, like Kalila 12, for example, has been blended out of hundreds of casks, all vatted together to make a consistent product. This, if I was to guess, 1,957, that's probably around 7 or 8 casks blended together. This is less blended than a single malt, which is hilarious. So if you're a fan of really peaty malt whiskies and you want to see the SMWS's take on creating something, crafting something that is in that flavor profile, this is one for you. It's also one for me because it's $151.22, which means I'm probably buying one. That is a very reasonable price that even someone on a liquor store salary can afford. So $151.22. If you're a fan of this style of whiskey, very much recommend picking one up. All right, it's time for the final whiskey, and one that I'm very, very, very much looking forward to because of how much I liked the last one. This is another malt that we have seen before in the SMWS, but we see very rarely. This next one is called Cozy Contentment, and here are the official tasting notes. We huddled around burning logs as heather crackled in the heat and the earth scorched beneath the embers. Sweet smells came from sizzling bacon and honey-glazed ham, whilst walnuts and macadamias toasted in a pan over the flames. Then, through the smoke, came a fruity note of black cherries with a spicy edge of rye bread with honey. A constant suggestion of steam engines heralded puffs of smoke combined with oily rags and old boots, but sweetness prevailed with a maple syrup and pecan Danish. A few drops of water delivered nutty notes as tawny port joined walnut bread and later praline. The bacon now had a more salty character that mixed with coal dust and burnt wood that remained onto the finish to be joined by delicious chocolate brownies. Now, as much as most of those tasting notes scream Islay, this is not an Islay, but this is what I've often referred to as the Islay of the Highlands. This is something that is often referred to as Rued Moor, although you will never see a bottle, or at least you probably haven't seen a bottle on the shelf called Rued Moor. I wouldn't say never, because maybe they'll release it, but this is something that is made specifically for the blending market that a few independent bottlers have managed to get their hands on some casks of. And it's very exciting. This is Cozy Contentment 16.41, and the last time we saw a 16 was actually 16.39 back in May of this year. That was called Sweetness and Spice Laced with Mystery, but that wasn't a Rued Moor. That was an unpeated whiskey from this distillery, which goes by another name. And the last time we had, and I believe the first ever time that we had something that could be referred to as a Rued Moor, was 16.38 all the way back in January of this year. Which was the first time we'd ever had something that was a peated Rued Moor. And that was called Acme Ghost Repellent, which is now a legendary whiskey which I get asked about quite a lot, and one that I'm very sad to say I'm quite close to completion of my own bottle. But this, although the name is not quite as catchy as Acme Ghost Repellent, this hopefully will prove to be just as beautiful. So this is a Highland malt from a Richard hogshead. It is 9 years old, from the 16th of December 2009, an outturn of 264 bottles with an ABV of 61.4. All right. So a lot of you will be very confused by the fact that although we've just had 2 Islas, a Lefroy and a blended malt from all over Islay, that we're actually finishing with a Highland. And yeah, normally that does sound a bit mad, but trust me, it makes sense for this one. The smell of smoked bacon frying in a pan. But they haven't added oil. There's no butter. There's no oil. There's simply the leftover bacon grease from the last smoked bacon. It's smoked bacon cooked in the grease of smoked bacon. It's smoked baconception. There's a little bit of a Bloody Mary thing going on here for me as well. It's very much Tabasco and Worcestershire sauce with that tomato base. Yep. Oh, and there is that magnificent nuclear explosion of peat. These guys are mad, and I love it. Yeah, that is weirdly fleeting. Oh, that's an experience. It's like a flashbang of peat. It's peat, and it's all you can taste for about 3 seconds, but then after it, the smoke subsides, and you end up with this beautiful shadow left behind of these sweet, beautiful pastry notes. It's like a magic trick has happened. You know when the magician pulls out something, there's a puff of smoke, and then there's something that wasn't there before? I think someone just held out their hand, an explosion of peach just happened, and then a muffin appeared. Just sat in their hand. It's a weird magic trick, but it tastes great. Walnuts. Yeah, it's a walnut dark chocolate muffin. That's what I'm getting there, with smoke. That is an amazing experience. Oh, I don't know that I've ever had a whiskey that does that. Like, the peat is just so there. It's the best of both worlds. Just like I was talking about with how I, used to love the and I still do love the really, really heavily peated Lafroigs, and then grew to love the more refined older Lafroigs much, much more so. This is a different way of experiencing that, because instead of having the smoke and the other flavors there together, you're getting the smoke and then you're getting the other flavors. It's still both in the one whiskey, but not at the same time. It's like listening to prog rock. You know, when you've got the screaming guitar solo and the keyboard who's on some kind of weird cocaine high and, has 18 fingers all of a sudden. It's listening to both of those at the same time, but one is in your left ear and one is in the right ear, and it's kind of phasing in between them. Ah, yeah, that is absolutely magnificent. What a way to finish a tasting, and I'm really happy that we've got such a crowd-pleasing tasting going into the first in-person Outturn experience in over 6 months. I think the local members are going to love these whiskies, and I think you guys at home will probably find one in this lineup that you can fall in love with as well. And hopefully you'll, thanks to this video, hopefully you'll find the perfect one for yourself. Yeah, that is great. So what is Ruadmore, Moor, and what is the distillery that makes it? Well, Ruadmore Moor is actually from Glenturret Distillery. Glenturret claims to be Scotland's oldest distillery. It was reportedly established in 1775 as an illicit distillery by the name of Hosh. Hosh is a terrible sounding name for a distillery. It's even more terrible when you find out that Hosh is the Gaelic word for foot. Yeah. Over 100 years later, no, actually, exactly 100 years later, that's an easy math, in 1875, they finally decided to change their name from Hosh to Glenturret. Their peated malt is known as Ruadmore Moor, which means big red, which I feel akin to on a spiritual level, being a big guy with a red beard. It was made specifically for the smoky grouse blend and is peated to over 80 parts per million. 80 ppm. By comparison, Lagavulin and Kalila are at 35 ppm, Lafroig is at 45, and Ardbeg, often referred to as the peatiest on Islay, if you take Octomore out of the equation, is 55. So this is, half as much again as peaty as Ardbeg. Blimey. I absolutely love these Ruadmore Moor releases. I think they're so interesting and unique, and it's great to have heavily peated whiskies that aren't from Islay, just to see how different they can be. I've always been a fan of Highland malts. You'll know, for those of you who follow along with me will know that Ardmore is one of my all-time favourites. Ruadmore Moor is definitely coming up there. Whilst I believe it completely kind of lacks the delicate complexity of many Ardmores, it definitely makes up for it in sheer brute force. This is being punched by someone wearing a gauntlet, a big metal gauntlet. This is a medieval boxing match in a whiskey. Beautiful. And the final release of the day, I can tell you, can be yours, so long as it's not already sold out, for $163.39. Again, an absolute scream of a deal. That means of these 7 new releases, let me get this right, I'm pretty sure, of these 7 new releases, 5 of them are below $170. 5 of them are below $170. One of them is just a hair above $200 for an incredible Kraganmore. And then, of course, we have the Black Label rare as Pixie Teeth Lefroig, which is substantially more than that, but honestly kind of deserves to be from the fact that how sought after it is. Yeah, that is a cool lineup that I'm sure will be pleasing to many, many members. So let us know in the comments if you picked up one of these bottles and what you thought of it. I'd love to get these comment sections started to be a little bit of a conversation, especially now that we don't have the live chat. And yeah, hopefully we'll be able to continue with the in-person outturns here at the Strath. Hopefully other SMWS stores, so Kensington Wine Market. I didn't do the welcome to the other stores. Anyone watching from Calgary and usually at the Kensington Wine Market, welcome. It's good to see you. Same with Edmonton and Ken Cork, or of course over the pond in Vancouver at Legacy. It's great to see you guys. Please do support your local SMWS outlets, and hopefully they will all be doing their in-person tastings again shortly as well. And yeah, hopefully the COVID-19 situation will allow us to keep going with our in-person tastings, but if not, we'll still be doing the videos, and we're going to keep doing these videos for as long as necessary in the meantime as well. So for you guys watching at home, thank you for joining in. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'll see you next time. Slash over.
In Yorkshire's pride of Sheffield, I worked all day for little pay in Huntsman's crucible works. My father was in charge of Benjamin's burning fires of hell, and I'm just there to keep the family alive. 'Cause I'm a steel melter's son, I work here on my own. I keep the coke fires burning bright, hoping I will eat tonight. Me and my father, we work as slaves. I feel like death is counting our days. I know we won't be free to rest till we've breathed our last breath. The coke fires, they just make me choke. My face is blackened from the smoke, and my feet are blistered because I've got no shoes. When I get home, I've got no bed, just a pile of straw to rest my head. And even what I have, my sister shares. From Monday until Saturday, we work 14 hours most every day, and on Sunday we've got church and then more work. My father tried to send me to school, but mother fell ill, so very soon I was back and working in the devil's lair. Summer steel melts the sun, I work here on my own. I keep the coal fires burning bright, hoping I will eat tonight. Me and my father, we work as slaves, and I feel like death is counting our days, and I know we won't be free to rest until we breathed our last breath. My sister's gone, my mother too, to the cotton mills that arc right through in Cromford or in fair Matlock's hills. And whilst the stars are out at night, I hold their memories to me tight, praying that I'll see them again. Hammer, steel, melter, sun, I work here on my own. I keep the coke fires burning bright, hoping I will eat tonight. Me and my father, we work as slaves. I feel like death is counting our days. I know we won't be free to rest till we've breathed our last breath. I know we won't be free to rest till we've breathed our last